Women's college basketball was absolutely on fire last night. A doubleheader that the nation, not just a few people, the nation was trying to get ready for yesterday. And we're going to recap that right now on the early line. The reason being is we got so many topics to get through, but we needed the man with a plan to come on here. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Joe Ranieri. And, of course, it's the coach James Young, who was involved all night long watching these games, and they were sensational. Before we get into these games here, Coach, let me just ask you a quick question. Women's basketball has never been hotter than what it is right now. And finally, we made the moves to say, let's get these women on a stage by themselves outside of the NCAA men's tournament, and they were there to shine. It was the perfect storm on a Monday night, Coach.
It really was. And the NCAA, this is one of the one things they get right with the women's tournament, playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I think that was, good. And obviously, Donnie, they had a feeling this was coming. Like, there was a reason why this game was Monday, 7 p.m., and not one of the games on Sunday, even though they had two regions in Albany. They lined this up perfectly. They wanted to see this performance, and what a show it was for women's basketball. And to double back, how about this weekend? They're going to go Friday, Sunday. So they get the stage to themselves this coming weekend as well.
94-87 was the final score. The Iowa Hawkeyes won. It was a great game all the way up. But, Coach, you've been in this situation before, right? Big games, talking to your team here and getting ready for the opponent, because you heard multiple times, including Kim Mulkey, say, boy, it's a shame this isn't a Final Four game to be on an even bigger stage. How would you get your team ready for that environment on a neutral court, knowing the eyes of the nation were going to be on this game as if it was the college basketball version of the Super Bowl?
Well, I don't think they needed any motivation, any of the kids. You saw it. I mean, because usually, Donnie, when you have these big-time games, you have teams coming out flat, like nervous, the energy, tight. You didn't see this. I mean, 31-26 at the end of the first quarter, and one of the best first quarters I've seen. Ready, folks? Regardless of gender. I'm talking about shot making, shot creating, seeing the floor, doing different things. I thought that both of these coaches did a great job of having these teams ready for the moment. The stage wasn't too big. I mean, yeah, maybe it would have been better at the Final Four, maybe. But honestly, I'll take what I can get. I thought last night's game was absolutely fantastic.
And it was a tight game, Coach. It was tied at the break there with Caitlin Clark and Iowa, with LSU back and forth. The trash talking was fantastic, which was great. But did you anticipate that kind of pace? Because it seemed like a pretty big number, and it did seem like LSU ran out of gas in the end in that second half, and Caitlin Clark took over. But were you expecting that kind of pace up and down?
I actually was, Joe. I mean, if you really think about it, last year 102-85 was the final, right? So to me, I'm not shocked at the pace. I'm probably more shocked that they both got off to such a hot start. Like, I thought it was going to be something where it was going to be slow moving early, pick the pace up. It was more like the other way. It got flying. I was like, after the first quarter, I'm like, oh my God, is this game going to go over 200 points? Like, is this possible? And then obviously the game slowed down. But to me, you got to look at Caitlin Clark. I mean, we've run out of. I mean, what do we want to call her? Female Steph Curry? Like, I don't know what adverb describes her, because she seems to eclipse all of it. 41 points. I came on yesterday, with Ben and Donnie, and I said over 5.5 threes. Little did I know that I didn't have to sweat that bet, and it was done in the third quarter because of the shots. And I think the thing that is so impressive with her is, these aren't threes. Like, these are, remember, folks, there's the women's, men's, NBA. She's shooting them beyond the NBA line, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 feet. And she does it off of different ways. I just think the way she played last night, she is the biggest story in women's sports. And I don't even think it's close. And I'm going to say this, and maybe I'm really, this could be too much, but I'll say it anyway. I really think Caitlin Clark is the women's basketball what Tiger Woods was the golf. Like, she transcends it. Think about this. We're 3 grown men, and at 8:17 in the morning, We're talking women's college basketball. That has never happened. And that speaks to what she brings to the game, but also what LSU brought to the game as well.
I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I've been enjoying the past couple weeks run here. Usually you skip over a women's college basketball game on national TV. That wasn't the case. Anytime Iowa was on, or LSU for that matter, I was stopping and making sure I was going to watch that game. The one thing we know about Iowa, it's usually we think of ourselves watching that game going, it's probably a one-man band, but she had running mates once again last night. Martin had 21 points, Affolter had 16 points. But also, Coach, talk to me about this. We all watched the first quarter, and it was so much fun. And you would say to yourself, wow, Iowa's up double digits here. What a great quarter. They didn't even have the lead. It was 31-26 LSU after that smoking hot start from Iowa. Then the next two quarters, the second and third quarter, were lower scoring here, but you saw Iowa take advantage. 19-14 in the second quarter, and as Joe was pointing out, 24-13 in that next quarter. If you were the coach of LSU, Kim Mulkey, would you have changed anything on how you approach Caitlin Clark, or she's just that good and you just can't defend her anyway, no matter who is actually on her?
You know what I felt really bad for last night? Haley Van Lith, because they put that kid on the island last night. And I can't understand for the life of me why not Flau'jae Johnson, who is longer, more athletic to start with. Secondly, there was no double teams. And maybe, let's be honest. Caitlin's got phenomenal vision, even though she had 5 turnovers. She throws some crazy passes, but her vision is sound. If you are Kim Mulkey, you cannot allow this kid to get off 23-point attempts. You can't. You got to try something. Triangle and 2, box and 1. And you can do triangle 2 and put 2 on Caitlin. You can double team the ball screens. You can hard hedge. They did what they did, and I question why not try something differently, especially early in the third quarter. When she hit those first 2 threes, I was like, oh, no, this is not good. This is not good for LSU. And they never adjusted. I also think on the other side, LSU missed a bunch of bunnies last night, like a bunch of close-range shots that I thought they were makeable. Angel Reese, who was phenomenal with the 20 rebounds, attacked the offensive boards, 10 offensive rebounds. Folks, when you get 23 O boards, you have to capitalize more than they did. And I thought they missed a lot of chippies last night. And like I said, back to Haley Van Lith. I mean, if folks don't understand, if you look at that line and say, this girl's terrible, you got to go back to when she played for Jeff Walton at Louisville. She was one of the best players in the country. I don't know if she went ring chasing or what, but that girl was so underutilized by Kim Mulkey. And then on the other side, she became the scapegoat for how bad their defense was.
Coach, you missed one Final Four last year, and everyone sticks a fork in you. I guess I can say they're back. Are they back, UConn?
Hey, I loved UConn last night. And you know what, folks? As great as we talk about the play of Caitlin Clark, but is the better all-around player, folks, all around, not explosive offensively, could be Paige Beckers and how she played 28-10, 6-3-2, and put Juju Watkins in jail in the fourth quarter where Juju could not get going. What a performance by both of them. You know what? The star of today versus the star of tomorrow, even though you got people like after Caitlin Clark leaving, I think the women's game is set up for a long, long time.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at, too, because you saw last night Juju Watkins, and you realize how young she is and was crying at the press conference. You're like, you know what? She at least has 3 more years here to go out and dominate, and who knows if she's going to average 25 to 30 points a game throughout her career. Let's pick back up on UConn and USC because it was an awesome game. Women's college basketball is the main story right here on the SportsGrid Network. Taking out to Portland, Oregon yesterday, the UConn Huskies 80, the USC Trojans 73. An amazing game all the way through. Superstars provided everything we needed, which include Paige Beckers and also Juju Watkins lighting it up. Beckers 28-10. You take a look at Juju Watkins 29-10 last night. But UConn, as a 3.5-point favorite, was able to edge the Trojans here as it worked out. Talking about this game much more this morning, myself, Donnie Rightside, along with Joe Ranieri and the coach, James Young. From this game, now we didn't have any theories of, hey, man, these teams were struggling to shoot because the three-point line was up to 9 inches off on one side. That was rectified. UConn won and moved forward. And this is one of those years where typically we always expect, Coach, UConn to be in the Final Four. But this year, we sort of wrote them off, and here they are in the Final Four.
Y'all wrote them off. I never did.
You wrote them off, Coach. Yes, you did.
Donnie Wright's like throwing daggers at me this early. What's wrong with you, Donald? Listen, I thought there was a chance. And listen, Donnie is right in regards to they were being overlooked. Let's be honest. At 33-5, anytime they stepped up in a big spot out of conference, they got rolled. They got absolutely rolled. They got rolled by South Carolina. They went down to the Cayman Islands and they lost 2 out of 3. So they, Notre Dame came into their building and Hannah Hidalgo put on a show, and they lost by 15 in their own building, which never happened to Gino. But to me, I was waiting for Paige to be Paige. And if you folks don't remember, this kid's basically missed the last 2 years of basketball. So go back to her freshman year, folks. Go back to her freshman year and watch. When she, as a freshman, took them all the way to the championship game, I think losing to Stanford, and she was the best player on the floor. This kid is finally healthy. And the performance that she did last night was absolutely fantastic. With her stat line, we already went over it, right? 28 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, only 2 turnovers. It's a 5-to-1 assist turnover ratio. And remember, folks, she isn't the point guard. She's a 2 guard. Yuli's a 2 guard. But to me, her defense, and I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, a high major college assistant, and I asked her, I said, what is going to be the difference in the game? She said, they have to establish Aaliyah Edwards. And they absolutely did. Aaliyah was fantastic with 24 and 6, 10 for 14 from the foul line. Really gave UConn that 1-2 punch because, let's be honest, 2 of them, they scored 54 out of 80. So they really were the only 2 that were punching at all. But what a performance by UConn. But Lindsey Gottlieb has done a great job at USC. This has been obviously a storied program for a long time. Haven't made the Final Four since, I think, the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. If you look at the lineage, Cheryl Miller, Cynthia Cooper, Tina Thompson, Lisa Leslie, they've had stars. And they may have, out of all of them, maybe besides Cheryl Miller, the best player to ever come out of there, and Juju Watkins, and she's only a freshman.
23rd Final Four in program history for UConn, Coach. 15 of the last 16 years they've been here, and this could be their toughest opponent in a long, long time here. So looking ahead, what do we think we're going to get in Cleveland here coming up this weekend?
I'll tell you what, Gino's going to not play no drop coverage on Caitlin Clark. I'll tell you that much. He'll have something up his sleeve, and it'll be a really intriguing matchup because you look at, offensively, right? You have the number 1 team in points per possession, according to Synergy, versus the number 4 team, right? You have a team in Iowa that plays with a lot of pace. You have the number 1 team in effective field goal shooting percentage in Iowa versus the 8th team in Connecticut. You have 2 teams that are tied for 30th in turnover percentage. What does that mean? They value possessions. And the number 1 team in Iowa in scoring percentage at 46.6% versus the number 7 team in scoring at 45.1%. So, folks, where is this game going to be won? On the defensive end of the floor. And that's where I get a little bit concerned with Iowa, UConn, 12th in the nation in points per possession defense versus 251st in Iowa. You look at effective field goal shooting percentage defense, 30th in UConn, 198th in Iowa. That is going to be the telltale sign. I think Gino will try and find ways to make it difficult for Caitlin to score. I need to see what Iowa's going to do on the other side because they do give up points and they give up rebounds. And Aaliyah Edwards is a better finisher around the rim with O boards than someone like Angel Reese. It will be interesting to watch come Friday night.